Freddy Gaz, a notorious Mafia hitman from Springfield, Massachusetts, has just been sentenced to 25 years on top of his life sentence. He is the man responsible for beating notorious gangster, crime boss, rat, and rapist Whitey Bulger to death in his prison cell. Let's get into it. Whitey Bulger wasn't your typical rat, as Johnny Depp and so many other movies have portrayed him as a hero. And yeah, some of the movies may be good, but the reality is he was a piece of shit rapist who wasn't just telling to get out of trouble. He was friends with an FBI agent named O'Conley, and he would tip off on all the rival organizations, even some of his friends, which allowed him to rape, pillage, kill, murder anyone he wanted to. Prior to all that, in 1956, Whitey would get arrested for a bank robbery. He'd get sentenced to 20 years in Alcatraz, where the CIA were doing all type of experiments with LSD. He rose his hand, did it. It was all type of psychological. They'd lock him in dark rooms, which gave him early release. Once released, he felt it was time. He felt he made enough connections on the inside, and this is what he was gonna do. Some say it was the LSD that turned him into a pedophile, killer, psychopath. In reality, a snake is a snake. They're only gonna shed their skin and become a bigger snake. On the streets, he would meet an old friend, the FBI agent O'Conley, where he'd begin loan sharking, extortion, drug trafficking, firearms trafficking, and of course, murder. A lot of people disagree with the claims of rape, as the movies and his lore made it seem like no way. But they forget to include this. In June 11th, 1951, he was arrested for a rape charge after police found him in a hotel on 1st Avenue South with a 15-year-old girl. The girl would later tell police that she went with them because she didn't want to get beat up. That same little girl would end up dead. Later on, another rat would say what happened. They killed her because they didn't want it to get out that he was a rapist, pedophile piece of shit. While running the organization of the Winter Hill Gang and working with the FBI, it would all come to an end. 1994, that agent would tip him off about a federal indictment and Bulger would bounce. This is the true definition of time doesn't exist, only opportunity when it comes to prison. As in 2011, 17 years later, he was apprehended in Santa Monica, California, along with his longtime companion, Catherine Gregg. After being on the FBI's most wanted list, right next to Osama bin Laden. When they raided his apartment, 17 years later, they found $822,000 in cash, over 30 firearms, including handguns, rifles, and shotguns, fake IDs, books, and documents related to his criminal history with the FBI dealings. Finally, in 2013, nearly 20 years after the indictment and him being on America's Most Wanted, he would go on trial. Some of his associates accused him of being a pedophile, alleging that Bulger had engaged in inappropriate activities with young girls. Bulger denied it. And the only 15-year-old girl that was brave enough to go was found murdered almost a decade prior to this. Eventually, Bulger will be convicted of 11 counts of murder, as well as involvement in extortion, money laundering, and drug dealing. He received 2 consecutive life sentences plus 5 years. Now, a man that was on FBI's Most Wanted, had pedophilia arrests, was a stone-cold snitch, informant, embarrassed the FBI, and killed many, many people, you would think they would not let him out of protective custody. Fotias, aka Freddy Gaz. Freddy, who was born April 4th, 1967 in Springfield, Massachusetts, will become a hitman and enforcer for the Genovese crime family. Though Gaz was 100% Greek and could not become a made man in the Italian Mafia due to their rules, he was deeply feared and involved in murder, racketeering, and extortion. One of the biggest murders he was a part of was Adolfo Big Al Bruno. Adolfo Bruno was a Genovese crime family, a capo, overseeing the operations in Springfield. Tensions arose within the organization, leading to a decision by the higher-ups to eliminate Bruno due to their concerns over the leadership and his potential cooperation with law enforcement. They would contact Freddy Gaz to orchestrate the hit. November 23rd, Bruno was fatally shot in a parking lot in Springfield. Investigations revealed that Freddy Gaz orchestrated the murder, enlisting the services of gunmen to carry out the hit. Another vicious murder that Gaz was part of was the murder of Westerman, an associate to the Mafia. They lured him into a secluded location under the pretense of meeting for a drug deal. There they ambushed him, beating him severely before shooting him. His body was found years later in a shallow grave. The motive for the murder is the same as Bruno. They're worried that he was going to be a rat, as he was involved in many different circles in the Springfield area. Freddy was the man for the job. Yet, it would all come crashing down years later. In 2011, Gaz, along with his brother Ty and an associate turned rat, Anthony Artillo, was convicted for his role in the Bruno murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. During time, Whitey Bulger, who was from his town and put away many friends and associates of Freddy Gaz. It is alleged that inmates would hear Freddy talk about how much he hated him, how much of a piece of shit rat, child molester, chomo he was. Yet he knew he'd probably never see him, being the fact they've made movies about this rat. The fact that he was on America's Most Wanted with Osama bin Laden. Yet, for some reason, Bulger, who was 89, would be transferred to Hazleton, October 29th, 2018. United States Penitentiary in West Virginia. This facility had a reputation for violence, having experienced multiple inmate homicides in just the months leading up to Bulger's arrival. Prison declined to answer why they would protect this man so much during trial. SWAT team, helicopters, snipers. The fact that Bulger is a known rapist, 1000% informant who put away a lot of mafioso, killed a lot of Italian mafia, plus his own people, and killed that little girl, 89 years old, failing health. It's being said that the rapid sequence of events from Bulger's transfer to his murder led to speculations about whether his placement at Hazleton was a deliberate act to facilitate his killing. However, they can never conclusively determine any intentional wrongdoing by prison officials. Just think about it. Whitey Bulger, who they protected like he was a president or some type of world leader in this picture, sent to one of the most violent prisons with no protective custody. This is a perfect example of time doesn't exist, only opportunity in prison. This man was gone for 20 years, had the feds in his pocket, killed, raped, murdered, did everything possible. But in the end, he would get sentenced to life in prison, where within 12 hours of being in that prison, Bulger would be brutally beaten to death. October 30th, 2018, less than 12 hours after Bulger's arrival, Gaz, along with inmate Paul DeCalagrio, entered Bulger's cell. When he got there, the unit was on lockdown. They waited for the daytime when the doors would be open, and that's when they went into the cell. They utilized a lock in the sock. The lock in the sock is one of the more brutal and personal ways to kill somebody in prison. It's as simple and barbaric. You drop a lock inside of a sock from your locker, tie a knot on it, and swing it like a club. As soon as they entered the cell, 89-year-old Bulger would be hit with the lock in the sock repeatedly in his face, the side of his head. During this entire beating with the lock in the sock, they would grab a inmate knife, known as a shank or a shiv, whatever you want to call it, and nearly gouge his eyes out and almost severed his tongue. Make a statement for the tongue as he was a rat and told on a lot of people that got put away. And the eyes, it's said to be because he looked at a child. He was a rapist and a pedophile, as you can see here. Well, it took the feds over 20 years to catch this man, and it took the prison only 12 hours to kill this man. Gaz will be put in solitary confinement for almost 4 years while fighting this case. He'd eventually get sentenced to 25 years in prison for the killing of Whitey Bulger. Gaz was already doing a life sentence. 25 years was nothing to get his hands on a pedophile and rat who put away a lot of his friends and corrupted the system. Gaz will be sentenced to 80X max custody Colorado prison, where he's still there to this day. The other people involved with it, Sean McCannon, DeCalagrio, all get sentenced as well. None of them told, yet they all took plea deals. DeCalagrio, who was part of the assassination on Bulger, would also get 25 years, as he was already doing a life sentence. The youngest of them all, McKinnon, faced charges related to providing false statements to federal agents as he lied about the situation as he was the lookout. He is now released. Now, at the end of the day, everything Whitey did, everything Gaz did, look how it all aligned for that one moment to happen. You can do anything you want in life as long as you accept the consequences. Time doesn't exist, only opportunity. As you can see, a guy that they guarded like the president got away with rape and murder and all types of vicious crimes, corrupted our institutions. Everything always comes back to you in life, no matter how long it takes. Stay out, stay free. Us.